When I saw the game Stray on the Steam homepage, my ass was like, What? Who gives a shit? Is this Goat Simulator for cats? Why the hell is this game $30 and first on the Steam homepage? But after analyzing the evidence, gathering research papers, and formulating my hypothesis, all by clicking on the game and reading the reviews for a few minutes, I realized, this sounds pretty fun. So I spent this month's OnlyFans budget on the game. It was costly, I understand, but it turns out the investment was well worth it, as this game is amazing. By far one of the best games I have played this year. It's Elden Ring tier. Stray is at most a 5-hour long game if you take a break in the middle of it to jack off 20 times in a row, and that might put some people off since it isn't too long, but in it you'll find one of the greatest stories of our generation. The writer was probably like this while writing the story. It's got excellent graphics, a great adventure over multiple ecosystems, and, my favorite of all, no strings attached. There's no sexy cat from Tom and Jerry skin, nor is there any other predatory microtransactions like Krusty Ass 3. And it does what it sets out to do in Blue Studios' first independent attempt at making a game, and I think we have this year's Rookie of the Year. But while I'm guzzling the glizzy of Stray, not the cat, I'm not that degenerate, what exactly makes this game so good, and what can the studio and others take from this success for the future? Subscribe and hit the bell if you do enjoy, it helps out the channel a ton, and you won't miss out on future content or streams. Let's start with the graphics. They are astounding. My CPU processor overheated, not from performance issues or anything, but from the sheer heat the graphics team provided. My corneas were burned like Joan d'Arc. This game is beautiful. Not only is this game graphically gorgeous, but it also has an amazing art style. Graphics can be good, but if you have Powerpuff Girl colors and Call of Duty or Friday or something like that, then the game is going to be a dud. There's no way around it. From the Undercity to Midtown, all the way to the wild jail area, the color palette really excited my palette and made the game so fun to just go through. The other thing I want to talk about real quick is the music choice. The music is also fantastic, as this game is really artistically, in a sense, incredible. The music was great, really captured the emotion of the different cyberpunk-type Midtown to the ending of the game where you finally, I guess, leave the compound and get into the natural light or whatever, leave the escape. There is going to be spoilers for this game, so again, if you haven't played it yet and you want to play it, I'd recommend going to play it, then coming back to this video. Or just not coming back, I guess. Who gives a fuck? Anyways, even just taking the tutorial, you're never told what to do necessarily. You just hang out with your cat friends and explore and find out what to do on your own. It's really kind of like Elden Ring in that regard, where the game never tells you exactly where to go or what to do. There's no prompt, nothing like that. But there are landmarks and signs, and you yourself have to travel without a user interface or any map or quest markers. It was what cyberpunk, I guess, was supposed to be like, set in a futuristic era where robots took over, as you slowly find out the humans died off when there are side quests, of course, but the main course of this game is simple. Let's get into the story. Before we continue, I found exclusive footage of 2 Civ Lifer subscribers duking it out. As you can see here, when these two fight, tectonic plates shift, and they even start flying, as you can observe. So subscribe and hit the bell to not only get a chiseled Greek god body and 6 inches where it matters, but 2, more importantly, not miss out on future content. The story is majestic. I don't know if they revived William Shakespeare to team up with J.R.R. Tolkien to make this or what, but the story's fantastic. Don't want to go too deep in spoilers, but you've been warned. The main character is you, the cat. You aren't some super cat that can talk or even unlock doors, quite frankly. You're a fucking cat. You can do everything a cat does. You get a purr button with a separate key. You can jump pretty high, scratch everything in sight, ride down buckets. It's fantastic. And that really works well with the story, as it is the definition of show don't tell until you get to B12, your robot ally and friend. After separating from your friends earlier on, you get neon signs and cameras nodding at you, telling you where to go. Eventually, you upload memories and meet a robot who directed you to where the place was, named B12, who talks and translates what other robots say, which is a pretty neat gimmick, since during the middle part of the game where you do end up losing B12, you really have to rely on the hand signs of the robot because, again, without B12, you can't exactly make out what they're saying. Your goal is to get to the outside with the robot who is suffering from amnesia, but wants the same goal. The story takes you to meet the robot village, where you meet and work with the 4 different outsiders, so one of you can get to the surface. I'm not spoiling the game. It's short enough to where I'll have a Stray on Crack video coming out on Monday, so stay tuned for that, but this entire story is excellent. It's really the only thing going for it, since the gameplay is missing like a dad going to get cigarettes, but it does the job well. The story will probably move you to tears, as it has everything from friendship, betrayals, tragedy, all while you, being a cat, witness everything as a silent protagonist, and you're literally just a cat. Like, you're literally do what a cat does, I guess, and you're trying to get home to your friends too, which is pretty neat. The adventure is really the second selling point of the game. You run around the city or prison or underground sewer or whatever, doing anything, including multiple side quests, as you can explore each of the areas you are in, and there are a bunch of them. Exploring the city as a cat is a really unique twist. You can't open doors, so you have to figure out exactly how to proceed. For example, open windows, taking out batteries to travel through frames and the like, all the while it takes exactly what Elden Ring did and removes all quest markers and really makes you have to figure out where to go and what to do. It's stimulating in a way, right? You can't just subconsciously just walk towards a quest marker as it goes from 1,000 meters to 900 to 800 to finally 0, but you actually have to think, right? Okay, what am I supposed to do? I gotta get a blanket. There's a place called Grandma's Sewing Machine, maybe I could go there. She wants a crack pipe. Where do I go next? If I'm going to be honest, then probably the south side of Chicago. If not, then probably the equivalent to the south side of Chicago. You know, stuff like that that really makes you think of where you need to go, what you want to do. There really isn't much I can talk about without spoiling plot points or side quests, but the game is open world in a way where you walking around to get the experience, the lore of the game, not limited to, for example, the memory collectibles you can get for B12, but also by talking with different characters who give their opinions on the current state and how they got there. It doesn't necessarily have the depth of some other open world games. I mean, it's 5 hours, but for a 5-hour production, this game did surprisingly well with what it was given when you consider that this was really the first game by a new studio, and they still made the world extremely fun to explore, not just graphically, but being able to explore as a cat, and really, I can't explain this enough. They didn't, no powers for the cat. What this cat does is literally what any other cat in the history of man can do, and that is extremely unique, and hats off to these guys. This other section is more so meant as an opinion piece by me, so don't go in the comments expecting sauce or whatever like I'm explaining my favorite hentais or some shit, but they made a game, not a product. What I mean by that is they didn't come into this product, in my eyes at least, looking to make money necessarily, as much as they were looking to make a fun game. It's 5 hours long, if you want to get all the collectibles, and there is no secondary transaction opportunity. You couldn't give them money even if you wanted to. In fact, I think even a DLC is a little far-fetched, as part of the appeal of this game is really just the underground cyberpunk robot city with you exploring as a cat. Now, there are different types of terrain, of course. There's like this underwater sewage thing where you gotta get away from the Invader Zim characters or whatever, and aside from that, there's also different places you can go to, like the tiny little hut village or whatever, more so something you'd find in the mountains in like the Middle East or some shit. But with these different styles, they all have something in common. It's dark, there's artificial lighting, and there is no lighting. They're stuck underground. And I think if you do something like a DLC, it would need to be a return to the city, or maybe a topside adventure, back to, spoilers again, back to finding your family, since we didn't really get that at the end of the story. And if it is the former, then I mean, you might as well just make a new game, whereas the latter takes away from the setting that made this game so interesting. All of this really is to say that them focusing on the quality of the game and making a great story, since they didn't even give you an opportunity to give them money, and in my opinion, I don't think a DLC is very likely, it shows that instead of trying to squeeze out the maximum amount of dollars, they made this game because they wanted to make a fun game, which, you would think that's what most games would be like, but you'd be surprised considering how really predatory a lot of the microtransactions are. But I guess in my opinion, at least, it's kind of refreshing in a way, seeing that they decided to make the game as fun as possible, rather than, stretching it out to like 30 hours with 50 necessary side quests and like 50 different skins for like $25 each. I think if Blue Studios is going to continue this route of a small story games, then they have to be careful of the Telltale trap, as outlined in my last video. Telltale was innovative to the point where they had releases like The Walking Dead that drew critical acclaim, even after failures like the Jurassic Park game that really was a sort of rough shed of the now known Telltale formula. But then they decided, nope, we're good here, and repeated the same exact style over and over again, and in a story-driven game with limited gameplay like Stray, you just just can't have that happen, since if everyone knows what to expect, they get less excited for the game, especially in a genre like the story type genre, where the difference between watching the game on Twitch or YouTube and not spending money for the creators and playing the game is essentially the same exact thing, unlike Call of Duty, who can release the same game with a new skin every year, because watching it for free is vastly different from actually playing the game. Check out my last video for a deeper dive into this case, but as long as Blue Studios continues focusing on making enjoyable products, which would include killer stories every time, then they should do extremely well. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed to not miss out on future content, and click this video in the upper right corner for more. See you there. Peace.